cry because nobody's ever asked them, how are you? Are you okay in there? Every day is a little check-in with me.
What if the biggest secret in Hollywood wasn't hidden in the shadows, but hiding in plain sight? Oprah Winfrey, one of the most powerful and respected women in the world, has stayed silent for years. But now, at 72 years old, she's done keeping quiet. For the very first time, Oprah is speaking her truth about Anjelica Huston, the legendary actress who has ruled Hollywood for decades. What happened between these two iconic women? What did Oprah see, hear, or experience that she refused to talk about, until now? Whatever she's about to reveal, one thing is certain: this is not what anyone expected. Stay with us, because this story is about to change everything you thought you knew. Oprah Winfrey was born on January 29, 1954, in the quiet town of Kosciuszko. Though even her name carried a small twist of fate. She was meant to be called Orpah, a biblical name, but people often stumbled over it, swapping letters until Oprah became the name that would one day echo across the world. Her beginnings were anything but glamorous. Born to a teenage mother working as a housekeeper and largely without her father's presence, her earliest years were shaped by deep poverty. Living with her grandmother until the age of 6, she experienced a life stripped to its bare essentials, so much so that clothes were sometimes fashioned from potato sacks. Some moments stayed with her, quiet yet heavy. She once recalled being made to sleep outside on a small porch rather than inside the house, a memory she later understood was tied to the color of her skin. Yet even in those difficult surroundings, something powerful was taking root. Her grandmother, strict but nurturing, introduced her to reading before she turned 3. Books became a refuge, a doorway to something beyond the narrow limits of her world. At 6, her life shifted again as she moved north to Milwaukee to live with her mother. The environment changed, but stability did not follow. The warmth and structure of her grandmother's care gave way to a far more uncertain home life. For a time, she was also sent to live with her father in Nashville, moving between households that never quite felt secure. As the years unfolded, the hardships deepened. She endured emotional turmoil and abuse at the hands of people who should have protected her. By 13, the weight of it all became unbearable, and she ran away. A year later, still just a child herself, she gave birth to a son who did not survive. By the time she reached her mid-teens, her life already carried the scars of struggle, loss, and resilience. It was the kind of beginning that might have silenced most dreams before they had the chance to form. And yet, somewhere beyond the pain, the first signs of possibility were beginning to appear. Quiet, distant, but real. When Oprah Winfrey enrolled at Lincoln High School in Milwaukee, it didn't take long for her to stand apart. Beneath the weight of her past, there was a quiet determination, one that showed itself through her sharp mind and tireless effort. She earned a place in the Upward Bound program, a stepping stone that soon carried her into a more affluent school, far removed from the life she had known. But the change brought its own challenges. Surrounded by privilege, she felt the strain of trying to belong in a world that didn't reflect her own. The pressure slowly chipped away at her confidence, and for a time, she began to lose her footing. Yet even in that uncertainty, there remained a steady voice within her, a belief that if her life was to change, she would have to be the one to change it. When things began to unravel, she was sent back to Nashville to live with her father, this time permanently. Like her grandmother before him, he was firm but deeply invested in her future. Under his guidance, her focus returned. The discipline she had once known resurfaced, and she began to thrive again, earning top grades, immersing herself in activities, and discovering the strength of her voice. By graduation, that voice had opened doors, securing her a scholarship and quietly setting the stage for everything that would follow. During her final year of high school, Oprah Winfrey found herself standing at the edge of something new. A win at a local beauty pageant unexpectedly opened a door into broadcasting, leading to a part-time role reading the news. She was only 17, still balancing schoolwork and uncertainty, but already stepping into a world that would soon define her life. While studying communications at Tennessee State University, she continued working in radio and television, quietly building experience over the next few years. Opportunity came quickly. At WLAC-TV, she made history as both the youngest anchor the station had ever hired and its first black female anchor. It was a remarkable shift, from a childhood marked by hardship to a position that symbolized change. Yet the journey forward was far from smooth. In 1976, she moved to Baltimore to join WJZ-TV as a co-anchor for the evening news. For a moment, it seemed like everything was aligning, but the role didn't last. She was eventually removed from the anchor desk and reassigned to less visible work, a quiet setback that could have ended her momentum. Instead, it became a turning point. In 1978, she was invited to co-host a daytime talk program, People Are Talking, alongside Richard Scher. It was her first step into a format that felt natural, almost instinctive. What seemed like a detour would soon reveal itself as destiny, guiding her toward the voice and presence that would one day captivate millions. When Oprah Winfrey arrived in Chicago, it felt like a turning point, but not an easy one. The morning program she inherited, AM Chicago, was struggling, weighed down by low ratings and a lack of direction. What seemed like a breakthrough opportunity quickly revealed itself as a challenge. Segments fell flat, formats didn't fit her, and at times, she found herself trying to play roles that simply weren't her. It was messy, uncertain, and far from the polished success people might expect in hindsight. But somewhere within that chaos, her authenticity began to shine through. Instead of forcing a formula, she leaned into what felt natural: connection, empathy, and real conversation. Slowly, almost quietly, everything began to shift. Within months, the show transformed from a failing experiment into the most watched talk program in the city, turning her into a rising force in television. It was during this period that another unexpected door opened. Quincy Jones saw something in her presence and encouraged her to audition for The Color Purple, a powerful drama helmed by Steven Spielberg. With almost no acting experience beyond a small stage performance years earlier, she stepped into the role with raw honesty. What followed was nothing short of transformative. Her performance carried a depth shaped by her own life, earning her an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress, proving that even the most uncertain beginnings can lead to extraordinary moments. When Oprah Winfrey first stepped onto the set of AM Chicago in 1984, few could have imagined how quickly her voice would reshape daytime television. By 1986, the show had grown into a full-hour program, reborn as The Oprah Winfrey Show, and launched nationwide through a landmark syndication deal with King World. Almost overnight, she became the most influential figure in daytime TV. But for Oprah, success was never a place to rest. It was a starting point. That same year, she quietly built something even more lasting: Harpo Productions, a creative home where she could shape stories on her own terms. What followed was not just a career, but the steady rise of a media empire, one built on connection, trust, and an instinct for what truly resonates. From Oprah's book club to the Oprah magazine, and even co-founding Oxygen, she found new ways to reach people, turning personal moments into shared experiences. Her show, which ran until 2011, produced thousands of episodes and earned dozens of daytime Emmys, eventually stepping away from awards while still at its peak. It remains one of the most watched and defining talk shows in television history, and even after 25 years, she didn't fade into quiet reflection. Instead, she began again, launching the Oprah Winfrey Network in 2011. It started modestly, but like so much in her life, it grew, reaching millions of homes and proving that her story was never about arrival, but about constant reinvention. March 24th, 1986, the Shrine Auditorium, Los Angeles, the 58th Academy Awards. Two women sat in that room, both nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and by the end of the night, one of them would walk away with the gold, and the other would allegedly never speak to her again. On one side, Anjelica Huston, Hollywood royalty, daughter of legendary director John Huston, and girlfriend of Jack Nicholson. She was nominated for Preezy's Honor, a darkly comic mob film directed by her own father. On the other, Oprah Winfrey, not yet the billionaire media titan, but already magnetic, raw, and electric, made her film debut as Sophia in Steven Spielberg's The Color Purple, a role so powerful it felt like she wasn't acting at all. She was living it. The buzz was enormous. The Color Purple racked up 11 Oscar nominations. Word on the street, Oprah was going to win. Gayle King later wrote that people kept coming up to her all night, saying they had voted for Oprah. The room expected her name to be called. But here's where the story gets stranger than fiction. Oprah wasn't sitting there dreaming of victory. She was praying she wouldn't win because her dress didn't fit. She had used Dolly Parton's dressmaker, who had taken the gown back for alterations earlier that day. When it came back, Oprah didn't try it on until an hour before the red carpet. It didn't fit over her hips. Her hairdresser had to lay her flat on the floor, push her down, and zip her up. And she rode to the Oscars planked in the back of a limousine. She later told Jimmy Kimmel that night was one of the most horrible nights of my life. Not because of the loss, because she literally could not stand up without risking a wardrobe catastrophe on live television. So when the envelope opened and Anjelica Huston's name was read, Oprah was relieved. Or was she? Because according to Huston, something shifted that night that never shifted back. More than 30 years later, in a candid 2019 Vulture interview, Huston was asked directly whether there were any repercussions for beating Oprah at the Oscars. Her answer was blunt. She never had me on her show ever. She won't talk to me. For context, the Oprah Winfrey Show ran for 25 years with thousands of guests. Every major Hollywood star cycled through that couch, but never Anjelica Huston. And then came the party story. Huston described the only encounter she ever had with Winfrey. At a private party during Oscar season, Huston was mid-conversation with Clint Eastwood when Oprah, she claims, physically walked between them, back turned, completely cutting Huston out. All of a sudden, I was confronted with the back of Oprah's head. Huston was bewildered. Nobody else would dislike me so much as to literally physically come in between the person I was talking with that way, she said. She could only draw one conclusion. This was about the Oscar. Now, Oprah has never publicly responded to any of this, and that silence is its own kind of statement. Was it a grudge? Was it obliviousness? Was Oprah simply so consumed by the empire she was building that Anjelica Huston barely registered? Despite everything, Huston ended her comments graciously. But I admire Oprah. God knows she's made some big steps. That's the thing about this feud. It's entirely one-sided in its telling. One woman carried it openly for decades. The other never acknowledged it existed, and maybe that silence is the answer. Oprah Winfrey's legacy is not simply measured in fame, but in the quiet, lasting imprint she left on how people connect, speak, and heal. Rising from a childhood marked by hardship, she transformed her voice into a bridge, one that carried deeply personal stories into millions of homes. At the heart of her influence stands The Oprah Winfrey Show, a program that redefined daytime television. It wasn't just entertainment, it became a space where vulnerability was allowed, even encouraged. Conversations around trauma, self-worth, relationships, and growth found a platform, changing how audiences saw both themselves and others. For many, it felt less like a show and more like a shared human experience. Beyond television, her reach expanded in thoughtful, deliberate ways. Oprah's book club turned literature into a cultural force, lifting unknown authors into global voices and reminding people of the power of stories. Her magazine, Oh, the Oprah Magazine, carried that same spirit, intimate, reflective, and focused on growth. Through Harpo Productions, she shaped narratives behind the scenes, ensuring that meaningful stories were told with care. Her later venture, the Oprah Winfrey Network, extended that vision into a platform dedicated to inspiration and authenticity. Yet perhaps her greatest legacy lies in something less tangible. Oprah normalized emotional honesty on a global scale. She showed that pain could be spoken, that healing could be shared, and that success did not have to come at the cost of compassion. In doing so, she didn't just build a media empire, she reshaped the emotional language of modern culture, leaving behind a legacy that feels both powerful and deeply personal.